So Al, here we are. Look, oh, good to see you, buddy.
You know, when I was doing this part,
Yeah.
I would have my little son at the time say, "How's it go again, Anton? How's the opening?" And he'd just get right into it. He'd hit the right note, and he would have the right tune, and I would just hear it. I just lose track of tunes, and I'm playing this part too. It's kind of
I know, but
it's a secret.
But you're there in the movie at the Greek Theater. Wasn't Chicago, right? What were you doing it during a Chicago concert, during the break?
This is all Dan Fogelman. He sorted it out. He said, "Listen, could you have Al come out and sing a song with your audience out there so I can get a shot of the whole thing with the audience?" He said, "Of course we'll do it." And then I was there, but I wouldn't have been able to do it if it was just me singing it like this. I had to get into the costume and play the character because that's the
You had the
movie.
scarf. Scarf's a
I
big
had the
deal.
scarf. That was a big thing. And I went out there, and there was this uproar with the audience. Chicago's audience, 10,000 people. And I would have fainted had I not been in character.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to make this quick, and I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. So say hello to Al Pacino. Wow, it's like getting a Life Achievement Award.
Every day.
Right,
yeah.
every day it's like that. Does that happen when you just go to the store? It's just
yeah.
people stand and say, yes.
Well, they don't do that unless I come with one of those speakers that you have to blow out. Al's here. No, it doesn't happen infrequently, which is okay. I'm very happy to hear this. And
I think this crowd liked the movie.
that's why we're here.
And your writer-director, Dan Fogelman, is here somewhere. Are you here, Dan, that you could stand up and get a little of this love?
Dan?
There he is. There he is. All right, enough about the rest of the world. It's all about you now.
Oh,
this is
yes.
this is it. So here you are finally playing a rock star. You know, you got a little close to it when you were Phil Spector, but he just produced.
He just produced.
He just produced.
No, actually he sang too. You know, he was a singer. He started as a musician. That's why he had such a feel for it, by the way. And he just didn't want to do it. But he knew music that well, and he was a participant. But me, no, I thought, I just didn't think rock star was in my future, you know. I just didn't see it. But I'm so glad Dan Fogelman saw it, and he wrote this. I'm not wrong, am I, Dan? You wrote it with me in mind. How about that? So where he got that from, and so I've been I'm very grateful, and I did it simply because it was a great script. I really liked the text, as you can see. I mean, it's a movie. It's a movie that works because it has the appropriate transitions and keeps you in it. And that's screenwriters. That's what they do. And it's not a play. It's a movie. And I was very taken within and working with Dan as a director, and the cast. The cast, as you can see, is really great. I mean, Bobby Cannavale and Annette Bening, Jennifer, Chris Plummer, all wonderful people and great actors.
It's nice of you to give them a chance. I think that was good. You know, they
Well,
needed that.
They didn't listen to me though.
But you know, Al, you are a rock star. You didn't play one till now, but
Yeah.
you are. That's your position in life. You can't go
Yeah.
many places unrecognized.
That's true.
Hard as you may try. And yet in the letter, the John Lennon letter in the movie, it's written that, you know, being rich and famous doesn't define who you are.
Yeah.
Have you had to fight that all the time?
Well, there's so many different I've been doing this for so long. It's almost 50 years of this. And so there's so many different trends. You go through so many stages. Early on, it was difficult for me. You find that you separate yourself from the work. I took off for 4 years at one point because I thought I could, I had to sort of recreate myself in a sense. That the idea of having to produce, having to be, how do you say it, as good as the last thing you did or something like that, and score, and that started to get into my my psyche and in the way I approach my work. So I found myself leaving the business. So weird. I just said I don't want to do this anymore, because I had a difficult time with one particular movie I did, and I thought this is strange. I don't know what I'm going to do, but something's wrong. And I took the respite. I did some. I actually made my own movie during that time, where I felt a kind of relief on not having to deliver. That I could just allow myself to find a way into material and express with it and do all those things that got me here in the first place. And I think that was a very that was a good period for me. I think it helped me. And then I moved on, and I did come back with some interesting movies after that respite.
Sea of Love being one.
Sea of Love was
Yeah.
what I came back to. Yeah. Thanks. And then I subsequently won an Oscar in the next years that followed. It was odd, but I learned something from it, I think, that brought me to a certain, as I talk about it now, I don't think I've ever said this. It did help. It supported me to get to the point where I could feel easier with being famous and being, someone who works a certain way. And of course, I slipped a few times. It's like in AA when they say you have a slip. I had a few slips there, and you go under. But
Isn't that part of it, though, Al?
it is part of it. It sure is.
What would you learn if you didn't try something?
Well,
you didn't want?
I think they're not as much exactly right. They're more, the mistakes you make are where you are as good as the things you do that aren't mistakes, because your life is you're putting it in the hands of fate, and your destiny is your destiny. And so when someone say, well, do you regret having done this particular thing? I say, how could I? Look who I met on that job. Look what I found out about myself or others. There's always something that you should know is in there for you. Where it's the doing it that finally. But I've learned now to try to be more. Try to find the roles that I think are acceptable that I would play, in the sense that they're appropriate age-wise. They're also cover a kind of part of myself, what I'm going through in my life, that I could contribute, that I feel as though I'm contributing something. Now that's a great luxury for an actor to have, so that I'd be able to pick and choose. And I'm not going to do a film that I might have done 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, because a great producer, Marty Bregman, produced a lot of movies. I was in especially movies like Serpico and Dog Day and Scarface, and he had said to me once, you got to be able to, he said, Al, stop experimenting on the main stage. In the commercial, experiment the actor's studio, experiment in downtown, off Broadway. But I do believe that, I do feel I still have, it's very hard for me not to get in there, take a chance, and when I feel challenged with something, even on the main stage. I'm trying to maintain that, but at the same time, in a sane way. Sometimes, you do something really off the wall. But I'm trying to maintain that spirit.
Well, Danny's going through this in the movie. He's
Yeah.
going through. He's looking to get recharged in some way to do it, but he's got these hits. And with you, people, I've walked to places with you where there are people shouting, and they shout lines from your movies.
Yeah.
They'll say hello to my little friend. They'll say,
Hello.
Attica, Attica, hoo-ha. you
Yeah.
know? And you say it right back to them.
Yes.
It's
I
great to
love
see
that.
you do that, yeah.
Oh yeah, I really like that.
So you do, I mean, I really am believing that you do. It's not like Danny, who is tired of singing, hey, baby, Dahi, there's he's tired.
Exactly. You did that well.
I did. I wanted to make you jealous.
Oh, you did. Oh,
What's going on?
Oh, gee,
Yeah.
it keeps going. You know,
Yeah.
you're reminded me of an old Italian short, but I won't go into it. It's a long story, but it was very funny about a mayor comes to the town. Now I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
And he lays the first brick of the building, and it's in silent. It's a silent film. He's an Italian in Italy, and he's just, and the crowds are cheering, and then they say, and his assistant says, "You better lay another brick," you know. And he lays another brick. They even cheer louder, and pretty soon he builds the whole building. It's very funny when you see it. Believe me. But, you know, I know with Danny Collins, I found something in this great script that did touch me. And that was that he, and I think we can relate to it, found great success in his first album. And enough success that somehow, because John Lennon, who was so insightful, could sense this kid, because he probably went through it himself, needed some support, and said that wonderful quote in this letter. But he never got the letter. And subsequently, the next album he did fell apart. And it was, you know, eviscerated and put down. And he had no talent, according to a lot of people. And the album didn't sell. And he didn't have the kind of self-esteem to handle something like that. He just was fragile in a lot of ways. I hope some of that comes out in the performance, because that was what was guiding me, because I felt it was in Dan's script, and that he couldn't go back to writing, and then he felt he wasn't really a writer, that was a fluke, that was an accident, that he had this thing, and he knew it. No wonder he was so shy and fearful, because he really isn't a writer. You know, he's going to have to do something. So what does he do? What he knows best. He was had a certain charm about him. He could dance. He could carry a tune, although you wouldn't know it out here. But he was able to do it in such a way and charm people. He had a certain look at his age, and he was very effective at it. So he went right to, you know, what he knows how to do, and it was with a kind of fevered by desperation, you know, and he got into it and he survived, because that's what I love about the character. He's such a survivor, and that's what sort of moved me to. And then, you know, he just did it for so long, and then it started to backfire naturally, and all the addictions and stuff like that. So at that time of his life that he gets that letter, so fortuitous, he's about ready to go out. I don't know if you picked that up, but we didn't make a big drama over that. But it was what Dan and I were talking about, that he had finally hit the wall, and it looked like he wasn't going to last. He wasn't going to last. And then this letter came at a real low point. And it's funny when things happen in life. I've lived long enough to know that sometimes it's timing. It's when they happen. Mm-hmm. And it happened to happen, pardon my French, but it happened to happen when he was at the most vulnerable both times. One when he quit writing, and the other, I don't really think he's a writer, honestly. I played the part. I think what's good what Dan did is that he goes off to do something else, to go back to doing what he's done, and he attempts those songs. But look what he's gotten. He's gotten a family back. He's gotten to feel like a person. So
he has, and in terms of what you were saying about the writing too. I mean, we got as far in the beginning of it's spring in my head, but the autumn leaves fall.
But the autumn leaves, they fall.
Fall. Very good. That's wonderful. Okay.
Why couldn't I do that when we were shooting?
You should. Why not? We have now location questions, Mr. Pacino. people are out there in 63 cities in
Whoa.
these United States.
Wow.
And the first question is coming from Michael Moore's Theater in Traverse City, Michigan. Nice to name it after me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Hi, this is Meg Weichman from the State Theater in Traverse City, Michigan. When you were a young actor, if you were to have received a letter from a fellow film actor, who would you have wanted it to be from?
That's the hardest question I ever heard. Oh, my.
They're
Let's
tough in
see who I
Michigan.
can really offend. I don't know. I would have. I don't know. Well, let me think about that. Can we table that for later?
We could come back,
Okay.
but it has to be today.
I mean, yes.
You know,
see,
yeah, it's
I'm really stunned and thrown off my game, so to speak. How could I be that unimaginative that I can't think of anyone I would have responded to a letter from? I guess, well, of course, yes, Marlon Brando. Let's face it, you know. He was a real hero of mine growing up. He was I think it would be Marlon, yeah.
And you got to talk to him in
I
person.
got to talk to him. I got to know him. I got to act with him. You know, hello. How does that happen? And so it was just one of those things.
It's tough when you meet an idol, though. You know, it's difficult to have
It
to
is
live up to
difficult.
what's in your head.
It is difficult. That's true because you. But the thing about some of those people that I've met throughout my life, they have a way of because in the end we're actors doing something together. It's like if we were tightrope walkers, we would meet each other to go across that wire because we all have a sort of job to get across. And actors, you know, after the initial, you know, then you're trying to work it out, and you become what you are. Find the harmony.
Yeah.
And then, so it gets you off the pedestal, so to speak, because you got work to do. And I think I never quite got where I wanted to get with Marlon in terms of that, but I had a lunch with him once. It's a great story, and he and I were in a hospital room.
Oh, everybody has lunch in a hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just went to that hospital, so that would be a good place for us to eat. And I say this with real feeling and love for him, but it was odd what he did, and it reminded me of what his life had become, you know, and because he was, a lot of you don't realize it, I don't think you know how, I mean, he was really the person. I mean, the things he did from the stage to the movies, those earlier roles were everybody's inspiration. He was it, a movie star and a character actor at the same time, very rare. Anyway, we're sitting in a hospital in New York on location for The Godfather. That's why we were there. We were in the corridor scenes and stuff. And we had lunch together, and we were talking. And I remember a young actor, and there's Marlon and I in this hospital room. And also, they were thinking of getting rid of me, by the way. That's a story which is really, and I don't mean with a gun. I mean, they were going to fire me, you know. They were going to let me go because it wasn't working out. And Francis was the one that was holding it together, Coppola. Anyway, I was in the room with Marlon, and we started eating, and he was eating a chicken cacciatore or something with a lot of gravy in it. And I became mesmerized by the gravy somehow. I thought, well, what's he going to do? What's he going to do with his hands? Because there's no table, nothing. And his hands are getting greasier and redder. And the chicken cacciatore is like dropping down. And pretty soon, I don't remember much of what we were saying. I thought, how's he going to get rid of that chicken bone? And finally, he does. He gets rid of the chicken bone. He threw it somewhere. But what about his hands, right? So there we are. We're sitting there on the bed, and he's sitting on the bed looking at me, no talk about the hands or anything, and I'm just sort of listening to him. And finally, he just reaches back with both his hands and wipes them on the white sheets of the hospital bed. No thought about it, just did it. Wham. And I thought, oh, I know how he's been living. Yes. Because there was such abandonment to him, because it was like he was like some sort of king somewhere. I remember him, that action alone said so much to me about celebrity, about fame, about the whole thing, and what it comes. It couldn't have been a more thoughtful person than Marlon, more considerate of other people, I must say. But that action, I guess it was, to him it was a set. They'll take care of it, you know. But it was very impressive, I got to tell you.
That's
I
a
was
good.
very impressed with it.
All right, well, we have a question now from the Music Box Theater in Chicago. You know Chicago.
Hi, Mr. Pacino. It's Lisa B. from the Music Box Theater in Chicago. I was wondering, which of your films are you the most proud of?
Well, she's from Chicago, so I got to say Michael Mann, Heat.
Heat, yeah.
Michael Mann, Heat. That's Chicago. One of my favorite films. I don't know. It's very hard to do that. You know, I must say, you got to pick out of all the movies I made. I would have to really think about it and remember the movies I made. They had asked me about the 70s, I remember, because apparently I made a few good movies then. And they said, let's go back, you know, and I said, well, I wish I could, but I have forgotten the 70s, literally. I remember a couple of the film titles, but the 70s are not right
Yeah, I
there.
think maybe you should go back and watch some of those movies.
I should see them again.
Godfathers are good. Dog Day Afternoon is really
Yeah.
good. Serpico's not bad.
I got kids, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to show them my movies.
You
I'm
have
gonna take
14-year-old twins.
Yes, I do.
That should keep you hopping.
Yes, it does.
Yes, yes, it does.
Hopping, bobbing, weaving.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
great.
we have now a Twitter question, so I get to read it, and it says, which rock star, alive or not, would you be if you could trade places with them?
I'm a little bit, I'm shy of trading places with anyone. That's really scary because we don't know what we're getting into, right? I mean, I know them. I know Mick Jagger. I love him. I know a few of them, Keith. I know Bob Dylan, believe it or not. I don't know him like I like to say. I like to say I know Bob Dylan. That sounds really good. But I've had dinner with him, and I like him a lot. And but trading places in terms of the gifts they have would always be, you know, Beatles, of course, anybody in the Beatles. I just, I don't know. I think Taylor Swift comes to mind.
Wow. That's
Oh, that's going to hit the internet, let me tell you, man.
There's your follow-up to Danny Collins. Al
Yeah.
Pacino is Taylor
is
Swift.
Taylor Swift.
That is the
That's
key
right.
thing. That
And I don't even know her, you know.
It's funny. I should move this along, but I just have to know, when you're with Mick Jagger or Bob Dylan, what do you talk about? I mean, just like what happens? You're sitting down to dinner. Is it the chicken cacciatore, or is it what you do as a living?
Well, I remember Bob Dylan in the 70s, but I don't remember a word we said to each other. But we were together for a while. There.
That's enough.
Now if we saw each other, we'd say, I wrote him a note, and he graciously answered me because I wanted his input on this movie I was making about Salome and Oscar Wilde, who I'm a big fan of, and I was doing this quasi-documentary movie with Jessica Chastain, of all people, as Salome. She's great. And I asked him if does he have anything he could contribute about his feelings about Oscar Wilde. Mm-hmm. And he said he didn't know anything about Oscar Wilde, and he answered very graciously. Also, I know Bono, you know, and Bono gave me a song, Salome. He wrote Salome, and he's in the movie, actually. So that was pretty
So
great.
something came out of it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
He was really into Oscar Wilde. And of course, Mick Jagger and Mick and I talked about, I think at one point we talked about a lot of things. Recently, actually. I saw him recently. And I don't remember, who remembers what they talked to anybody about? I mean, it's just, I remember him talking about chocolate once. He had a good take on chocolate.
Okay, it says so much. And well, now we have a question live here in New York City.
Oh, New York. Oh, I
Where
am
is
in
the-
New York.
You do. You
I'm
are
so
in
used
New
to
York.
being in L.A. I'm in New York, my home. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Pacino.
Oh, okay.
Big fan. Big fan of your work. On IMDb, it says you're considering the roles of Matisse and Joe Paterno. Is that true? And if you could play anyone else in history, you know, who would that be?
Napoleon, actually. Well, to me, playing the role is only, it only matters to me as to what the script is, because, you know, we're all, they say, oh, you want to play Picasso? I love Picasso, but there has to be a script. that's what I play, because Picasso's a character to me, somebody I have to play within. I've played real people. I played Kevorkian. I played Serpico, Frank Serpico, and it was wonderful to play a real person. You know, you like that, someone who existed. But this script of Napoleon is so good, because people have been interested in me playing Napoleon, and hopefully, I think because of my height. But aside from that, though, I think that it took a while, but finally someone came up with a script that I felt really, at the end of Napoleon's life, when he's at St. Helena, his last stay there, it was really good. So, I played Roy Cohn, real person, but it was Tony Kushner who wrote this great, Angels in America, this great play. So it really has to do with the text, finally, in the end. That's what I go by. So I really want to play a great character that someone writes. To me, everything is the writing of it.
You need Tony Kushner to do the Taylor Swift story for you.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
We start. I
Okay.
look like her,
There-
so that's a good.
it.
That's
It's
a good opening.
perfect. I'm seeing you. I just have these visions now that I have to get out of my head.
Oh, gee.
Shake it off,
See, that's
yes.
the one thing.
No, it's just no. It's
Well,
gonna.
you see, that's the one thing actors worry about. It's certainly actors. I know, and myself, is you want to keep that image neutral, the personal image. That's why I didn't do much growing up. I didn't do much interviews and stuff. I always wanted to separate myself from what I do. Like, that's our canvas that I paint something on. And I felt that audiences want to see you playing a character. And when they know too much about you, I think that could interfere. But it apparently doesn't.
I don't think it does. Not at the
doesn't,
length
not
of your
anymore,
career.
because everybody knows everything. Yeah, but
Yeah.
there's a
Nah.
good script on Napoleon out there. So
Well, we have
maybe-
we have another question here on location in Santa Fe.
when am I going to
Mexico.
stop working? That's the
No, you shouldn't do that.
Another script.
That's wrong.
This is Rio from the Screen in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We're all big fans, and we're dying to know, what do you do outside movies? What do you do on your spare time?
I talk about them. No. No. I basically, what I do is I have older children and I have younger children, so I've been kind of occupied with them a lot. I tour around. When I find something that interests me, I'm at home with them, but I'm always looking and reading things and trying to figure out what's next, and just enjoying things I see and that stuff. I just recently went to Philadelphia and did a concert there with the Philadelphia Philharmonic.
Sure, you did. What were you doing?
I got up there and I was a host, MC, of the 158th birthday of this theater in Philly. It was fantastic. I don't know. I never did that in my life. I was an MC like I am now. And I started, then the orchestra played selections, and then I introduced the violinist, great, and all that. And then I did Shakespeare. I talked about my first experience at classical theater, classical music. I love it, and I talked about it, and then I talked about different things. And they had this orchestra behind me, and I did soliloquies from Shakespeare, and I did poetry, Cummings and others, and they changed. Yeah, it was something from. Copeland, Aaron Copland, beautiful thing. I did the E.E. Cummings poem.
Sounds like something you could take on the road.
Well, I would love to develop that. See,
Yes.
I'm always thinking of those things, to continue on, to try to find a way to keep the bones going and keep everything sort
That's
of.
kind of crucial.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what else I want to do. Although it's very inviting, a porch, a rocking chair.
I'm not buying any of that.
Well, that's how I go to sleep at night.
yeah. Do that reading
Maybe
again.
one day I'll have that porch.
Okay, another question here in New York. Somebody has a microphone.
Hi, Mr. Pacino. Huge fan. The movie was absolutely wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
So my question is, how do you feel about critics, and how does Peter Travers fit into that?
Oh, tough.
Well, Peter Travers aside, no, I think there are critics sometimes who really, certainly have seen it, are very important and very helpful, especially in movies like this or any movie really, that it supports the authenticity of them and their interest in the art form is necessary really. And especially now when you're getting films out and trying to get them and getting audiences to either compare notes with critics, but today's, with the internet and all, everybody is a critic. But like a good friend of mine once said, and I have to quote him because it is interesting, what anyone says about me is none of my business. I kind of like that in a way when you think of it. Because in a way, because everybody says things and everybody has that, but the critic has a kind of responsibility, especially, you could see it in Peter's work and everything. You see people who care. They care about films, like Ebert, the guy.
Roger.
Roger really cared about. And Scorsese says it, and when you feel that from critics, and I think more and more they are, because in the old days people were trying to get reputations and stuff, but now it's really a movement there to sort of encourage, and yet at the same time be real, be honest. Boy, that was a long.
Whoa.
How did I write that?
That was that. You could do that with the
I
Philharmonic.
never answered that question in my life. So there it is.
There's only one question left besides mine that ends it, and I don't know where it's coming from. It's our own Allison Bales here.
Hello.
Yes,
there she
Allison.
is.
Me again.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Mr.
Allison.
Pacino. Congratulations on the film. It was just marvelous.
Thank you.
You just joked that you don't remember your films from the 70s, but of course we do. They're still being talked about. Your roles are iconic, legendary. What films or filmmakers do you think we will still be talking about in the next 40 years?
Well, Francis Coppola once said, I think he even said it to the press too. He said, he said it to me. So, one day we're going to get some 7-year-old girl in the Midwest with a camcorder, and she's going to be the next Mozart of film. And I thought, that was interesting because he knew about all this that goes on with the iPhones and my own daughter has been using iPhones and editing films since she was 3. So the development of that is there, and I don't know where it's going to go. It's like all bets are off with that one. I mean, it's an open season. It is really interesting, this connection with the visual. And because my knowledge of it, I started in the theater. That's been my catalyst, the theater. So I was always a little bit at arm's length with film and the makings of it. I know I've made a couple of movies on my own, Looking for Richard. I don't know if anyone's seen that or nobody has. Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank you. But I've done things on my own, this recent Salome. I did 2 or 3 others that I keep in a vault somewhere.
Local Stigmatic.
Local
Nobody can see
Stigmatic.
it.
That you must see that, Peter.
I have seen it.
Oh, you
but
have?
You keep making it. I mean, I know that you don't
No, I
leave it
stopped
alone.
cutting it.
I don't
finally
believe-
have. No.
I
It's
don't-
it's down to 52 minutes. When it's down to 5 minutes, I'm going to show it.
Everybody.
But I think that the directors are born, and a director. This difference. I'm an actor. I see things that way. When I read a script, I don't think about how I'm going to direct it. I really think about what character do I want to play in this. And when I know the character, that's because this has been my conditioning, And so, how did I get there? Why? What do I think about films of the future? I'm going to go into directing. That's what's going to happen.
That's what it's going to happen. All right, I'm going to ask the last question that is going to be about this movie and you looking at you in it. Is there a moment in this movie that resonates for you for reasons that only have to do with you, not what Dan wrote and directed or what? Oh,
Sorry.
well, that's a lawsuit.
He said that's a law.
Hated it.
A lawsuit. Well, it better be, is all I
There
can
it goes.
say.
Wow. I've never had
There it
anything
comes again.
thrown at me just because I asked. But is there that moment that really resonates for you personally because of you?
I love what Orson Welles said about seeing himself in films. He said, I don't see my movies because there's nothing I can do about it. And when you think of it, you see yourself, you're forced, you're not objective. But you are objective after a while. That's what you learn early on. You see yourself when you know there's something you can contribute. But say, well, that scene when I did, and there's usually nothing that I can contribute when I see a movie because it's the director, and they usually make you look better than you really are in the film. So you're sort of like, thank you. I thought I'd be much worse than this, And then you go away because you start to, and it's enjoyable when I'm looking at a movie and I'm getting a feeling of what the audience is doing. I really, that I think The Godfather 2, Francis took out at least 20 market research screenings, at least 20. And he would rearrange it, change it, feeling the audience and feeling what he was trying to convey, because that's the whole thing, trying to get through so that we're all in the same room together watching a film that we can receive, and that's a good way to do it. That's why we have previews in live theater, because you'd be rehearsed. I'm going to say this because I'm imparting something I've learned here, and that is that if the audience there is no fourth wall when you're acting in the theater live, because there's the audience. That's what you're waiting for. So you could be rehearsing, doing all kinds of things. But until you get that feedback from the audience, you don't know where your play is. And that's why they have out-of-town tryouts, et cetera.
And in a movie, you can't go back and do it, so
No,
it's
you
gone.
can't. It's gone.
But there are many moments in this, thanks to you, thanks to what Dan's doing and the other actors. But the one that I really love watching it a second time
sure.
seems a throwaway. And you're basically trying to get Annette Bening to go out to dinner with you, and you say, how do I look? And she said, you look slightly ridiculous, which could be the major, put down.
Yeah.
And you say, as Danny, nah, I look sharp. And that gives me hope for Danny. It gives me, that's what
great.
happens in movies when they work,
That's
which this
Danny.
worked.
Oh,
So that's
thanks.
all a prelude to saying to you not only thank you, but please take us out in song. No pressure.
No pressure. No.
No.
Well, you've just seen it, so I can only improve on what you've seen. No. What would you like me to sing? Is there
No,
anything
I
spe-
want it to come from
Well,
your
I've always
heart.
wanted to sing the Star Spangled Banner, but I can't do it.
That is
I
a-
just thought, no, I'm gonna join the ranks of what's her name? No, well,
No.
she's way above my strata. But who's the woman that sang it? What's her name? Roseanne Barr. Poor thing.
Yeah.
She got up there. That's where fame can take you. So I got a feeling that I might start doing that. That I really.
I think it would be a little Luck Be a Lady would be good.
Oh.
That almost set you on your musical career.
I'll sing El Voglio Bene Italian.
okay.
How bad
That
can
makes
I
me
do
cry.
if I sing it in Italian?
Yeah.
Just say I need her as roses need the rain, and tell her that without her, ah la 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 la.
Oh, we get to fill it in.
A voglio bene, sai, quando dice ce la voglia, de non ma sguarda mai. Just say I need her. Now I'm a lounge singer. As roses.
Turn it into that.
Thank you. I'm spilling everything. Thank you so much.